Welcome to Talk Treatises, the professional philosophy and classic literature discussion, where we don't just skim the surface. We go all the way to the bottom.
That's right. We take these foundational texts, the ones that really built the furniture of our minds, and we see if they still hold up.
And today, we are tackling something massive. I mean, we usually think of Greek mythology as these, polished marble statues or, Disney movies with Hercules singing.
Right.
But today, we're going back to the source code.
We are. We really are. We're looking at the works of Hesiod. And specifically, we're diving into two of his major texts, the Theogony and Works and Days.
And if you're listening to this thinking, Hesiod, isn't he just the guy who isn't Homer? Well, you're in for a ride. Because while Homer's giving us these blockbuster action movies of Troy and Odysseus, Hesiod is giving us something much grittier.
Much grittier.
He's giving us the origin of the universe and then immediately after, advice on how to fix a wagon axle.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it? You have the cosmic and the deeply domestic right next to each other.
Yeah, totally.
But there is a unifying intellectual problem here. There's something he's trying to solve.
And what's that?
Well, how do you reconcile the absolute chaos and, the sheer violence of the universe's origins with the need for order and justice and just plain hard labor in human life?
Right.
Hesiod is essentially asking, why is the human condition so difficult? Why do we suffer? And, given that we suffer, how are we supposed to live righteous?
It's the ultimate why me question, but for all of humanity.
Exactly. On a civilizational scale. The thesis we're going to explore today is that Hesiod, he establishes a transition. We move from this elemental chaos to what you could call the moral reign of Zeus.
Okay, so order from chaos.
Yes, but, and this is the kicker, he argues that for humanity, for us, trapped in what he calls the Iron Age, the only defense against total oblivion is justice and relentless back-breaking work.
So no shortcuts, no life hacks.
None, absolutely none.
Okay, so before we dive into the monsters and the farming tips, let's set the scene a little. You mentioned Homer earlier, and I feel like you can't really talk about Hesiod without that comparison.
You really can't. It's the essential contrast. Think of it as two different schools of thought in early Greece. You've got the Ionian school, which is Homer.
Yeah.
That's the coast of Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. It's a culture that's seafaring, it's adventurous, it's, romantic, heroic. It's all about glory, Cleos.
The rock stars of the ancient world.
Right, totally. Then you have the Boeotian school, and that's Hesiod.
Where's Boeotia?
Boeotia is mainland Greece. It's agricultural, it's landlocked, it's practical, it's didactic, which just means it's trying to teach you something.
Okay.
So if Homer is writing the Romance of the Sea, you could say Hesiod is writing the Fact of the Land.
Did Hesiod himself, he's interesting because unlike Homer, who's this sort of, ghostly, semi-mythical figure, Hesiod feels like a real guy.
He's the first personality in Greek literature to speak in his own voice. He actually tells us about himself. He says his father was a seafaring trader who moved from a place called Seme in Aeolus. That's the Ionian coast.
So from Homer's world.
Exactly. From Homer's world to Askra in Boeotia, he moves inland.
And he didn't exactly write a tourism brochure for Askra, did he?
Not at all. It's one of the most famous lines. He describes Askra as miserable in winter, sultry in summer, and good at no season.
I love that. Good at no season. It sets the tone perfectly.
Yeah.
This isn't a guy writing from a palace somewhere. He's writing from a farm that's probably either freezing cold or scorching hot.
In that environment, you can feel it shaping his philosophy. It's a philosophy of endurance.
Yeah.
But there's this moment where he transcends that gritty reality. He describes a divine commission. He says he was tending his sheep on Mount Helicon right there in Boeotia when the Muses came to him.
The Muses. The daughters of Zeus, the goddesses of art and inspiration.
The very same. And they say something to him that I think it might be the most important line in all of early Greek thought. It's a real philosophical turning point.
Okay, what do they say?
They tell him, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, we know how to speak many false things as though they were true, but we know, when we will, to utter true things.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's unpack that. We know how to speak many false things as though they were true. Is that a shot at Homer?
A lot of scholars think so. I mean, it's hard not to read it that way. It's like he's drawing a line in the sand. He's making a distinction between the pleasurable lie of heroic poetry, the stories of Achilles and Hector, and what he sees as the hard truth of philosophical poetry.
So he's claiming a different kind of authority. He's saying, I'm not just here to entertain you, I'm revealing the actual structure of reality.
Precisely. It's a huge epistemological claim. He's saying his source is truth itself when the muses choose to grant it.
So he gets this like divine download of truth, but the specific reason he starts writing works in days. It's actually super petty, isn't it? It's all family drama.
It is entirely family drama, and that's what makes it so relatable. It's this grand philosophical text grounded in the most mundane of inciting incidents.
Right.
So Hesiod has a brother named Perses. When their father died, they divided the inheritance.
And Perses wasn't happy with a 50-50 split.
Apparently not. Perses, it seems, bribed the local lords. And Hesiod has this great name for them. He calls them the bribe-swallowing lords, the Bessiles. Bribe-swallowing lords. He does not mince words.
He is not. And these lords awarded Perses the larger share of the estate. So Perses basically swindled him.
And Hesiod is mad.
He is furious. So Works and Days is framed as this long letter or an admonition to his deadbeat brother Perses. He's telling him, essentially, stop hanging around the law courts trying to swindle people and get back to work. Earn an honest living.
So it's an intervention letter that just happened to become a foundational text of Western civilization.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the man. Now let's look at the universe he lives in, the one he maps out. We're starting with the Theogony. This is the cosmic architecture part. And it doesn't start with a bang, does it? It starts with a void.
It starts with chaos. And we need to be careful with that word. We often think of chaos as disorder, like a messy room or anarchy.
Right.
But in the Greek, chaos implies a yawning void, a gap, a chasm. It's the first state of existence. It's the potential space.
And out of this gap, we get the heavy hitters.
We do. We get Gaia Earth, who is described as the sure foundation of all. We get Tartarus, the foggy pit down below. And we get Eros.
Now, Eros...
Yes.
We think of Cupid, right? The little baby with wings and a diaper.
We have to completely banish that image. This is not Cupid. This is primordial Eros. This is a force of nature.
Okay.
His Hesiod calls him the fairest among the deathless gods, which is interesting, but then he describes his effect. He's the force that unnerves the limbs and overcomes the mind.
So desire, but on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. Eros is the principle of attraction that allows generation to happen. Without Eros, the universe is static. Nothing happens. With Eros, things collide, they mix, they create.
It's like the gravity of biology.
That's a great way to put it. It's the fundamental force of coming together. And then, after that, we also get Erebus and Night the Dark principles. So right away, from the very beginning, the universe is built on a mix of solid earth, empty void, darkness, and this overwhelming force of desire.
And then the drama begins. This is what you call the succession myth. And it's basically a horrifying story of fathers and sons trying to kill each other.
It is the violence of becoming. It's a deeply disturbing and powerful story. So Gaia, the earth, she bears a son, Uranos, who is heaven or the sky, and Uranos covers her completely. They are locked in this permanent embrace.
And they have children.
Lots of children, the Titans, the one-eyed Cyclops, the hundred-handed ones. But Uranos hates them. He's disgusted by them, so he pushes them back into Gaia. He won't let them be born into the light.
Which is, that sounds physically painful for Gaia, for the earth.
It's described as excruciating. She is literally stuffed with her own suppressed children. She's groaning under the pressure. So she hatches a plan.
A desperate plan.
A very desperate plan. She creates a sickle of gray flint, a tool, and she asks her sons, who are still trapped inside her, for help. Avenge me, she says.
And only one steps up.
Only one, Kronos. Hesiod calls him the wily Kronos, the crooked counseling Kronos. He agrees, so he waits in ambush.
This is just, it's an unbelievable image.
It is. Kronos ambushes his father Uranos. He takes the flint sickle and he castrates him.
So brutal.
It's incredibly brutal, but it's also deeply symbolic. What does this act do? By cutting off his father, he separates heaven from earth. He creates the space, the gap in between where life, as we know it, can actually exist. It's a violent act of creation.
But the violence has consequences. It doesn't just disappear.
No, it echoes through creation. The drops of blood from the wound hit the earth, Gaia, and from them are born the Furies, the giants, and the ash tree nymphs. So vengeance and violence are literally born from this act.
And what about the main point?
The severed genitals, yes. Kronos throws them into the sea.
Right.
And a white sea foam gathers around them. And from that foam steps Aphrodite.
The goddess of beauty and love.
Yes. And here is where it gets really philosophically interesting. Hesiod is telling us that beauty, Aphrodite, is a byproduct of violent separation. She is born from the maiming of the sky.
So love and beauty are born from trauma.
It suggests that beauty and desire in this cosmos are inextricably linked to violence and suffering. They don't come from a pure place. They come from a wound.
That is heavy. So Kronos takes over. He's the new king. But he's not exactly a great dad either, is he?
No, he seems to learn nothing from history. Or there's a prophecy that he too is destined to be overthrown by his own son. He's terrified of this. So instead of suppressing them inside the mother like Ouranos did,
He does something even worse.
he swallows them. As soon as his wife Rhea gives birth, he takes the child and swallows it whole.
It's like a metaphor for a tyrant, right? He literally consumes the future to keep the present static and under his control.
That's a perfect reading of it. He swallows Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, one by one. But Rhea, his wife, is heartbroken. She's fed up. When she is pregnant with her last child, Zeus, she goes to her parents, Gaia and Ouranos, for help.
And they tell her to hide.
They tell her to go to Crete to give birth, and they come up with a plan. She gives Kronos a large stone wrapped in swaddling clothes.
And Kronos, being the wily genius that he is, eats the rock.
He swallows it whole, doesn't even check. This, of course, allows Zeus to grow up in secret in a cave on Crete.
So eventually Zeus grows up, he comes back.
He does. He forces Kronos to vomit up his siblings. First the stone, then the gods. And now, the war for the cosmos begins.
The Titanomachy.
The War of the Titans. And this isn't some quick skirmish. Hesiod describes a 10-year stalemate. It's a long, grinding war. The Titans are fighting from their mountain, Mount Othrys, and the new gods, the Olympians, are on Mount Olympus.
And they're just blasting each other.
Constantly. But the turning point isn't just that Zeus is stronger. It's that Zeus uses strategy, maybe even a bit of diplomacy.
How so?
He remembers the 100-handed ones, Briareos, Cottus, and Guys, who had been imprisoned deep in the earth by their father Ouranos. Zeus goes down and frees them. He gives them nectar and ambrosia, the food of the gods, and restores their strength.
He makes allies.
He creates a coalition. The Titans are fighting for their own individual dominance. Zeus is fighting with a team that he's built. He wins them over.
And the description of this final battle, the physics of it, is just insane.
It's nuclear. It's completely off the charts. Hesiod writes about the earth melting like tin or iron in a crucible. He says the immense heat reached down to chaos itself. The blinding thunderbolts are flying. He talks about the screams and the sounds echoing between heaven and earth. It's total sensory overload.
And the good guys win.
They do. The Olympians triumph. The Titans are bound and cast into Tartarus, that foggy pit, and they're guarded by the very 100-handed ones that Zeus freed.
So justice is served in a way.
In a way, yes. And Hesiod gives us this incredible tour of the underworld. He maps it out for us. He describes the House of Night and Day, the River Styx, the Hound of Hades. He's giving us a geography of the dark places.
But Zeus isn't quite done. He has one final boss fight to prove he's the one in charge.
Typhoeus. This is Earth's final child, her last-ditch effort. And this is the monster to end all monsters.
What's he like?
He's just unimaginable. Fire-breathing, 100 snake heads for a neck, and each head has a different voice. Voices that sound like bulls and lions and gods and even puppies.
Puppies.
Hesiod says whelps, which I've always found so strange. It just creates this cacophony of sound. Typhoeus represents the return to chaos. If he wins, the order of the universe is gone. It's just anarchy and monstrosity.
And Zeus defeats him, not with a coalition this time, but by sheer, overwhelming power.
By the lightning bolt. This is Zeus's signature weapon. He burns the 100 heads off the monster. This victory establishes Zeus's supremacy not just by right or by cleverness, but by raw kinetic energy. He is the master of the voltage.
So the war is over. The monster is dead. Zeus is king. But he does something really different from his father or his grandfather. He breaks the cycle.
This is the crucial political innovation in the Theogony. Ouranos suppressed his children. Kronos aped them. Zeus marries Metis.
And Metis' name means wisdom or cunning.
Exactly. But there's a prophecy that Metis will bear a son who will overthrow him. So what does he do?
He swallows her.
He does.
Yeah.
But notice the difference. He doesn't swallow the child. He swallows the mother. He swallows wisdom itself.
So he internalizes it.
He integrates Metis into his own being. By doing this, he ensures he will never be outwitted. He now contains both power and wisdom, and then the child she was carrying, Athena, is born from his head.
Fully armed
And shouting a war cry. This is a huge symbolic moment. It means that in the reign of Zeus, power, Zeus, and wisdom, Metis now embodied in Athena, are unified. The cycle of violent succession stops because the king has become the embodiment of the cosmic order itself.
So that's the Theogony. Order is established. But it's a terrifying, violent order built on a lot of dead monsters and castrated dads.
It is. And that brings us to the human perspective. Because while Zeus is having a pretty good time up on Olympus, sorting things out, things down here in Askra are less great.
Right. Which takes us to Works and Days.
Yeah.
Human condition.
Yes. The sequel. In a way.
And he starts this one with a correction, right? He's like, hey, remember in the last poem when I said there was one goddess of strife? I was wrong.
It's a brilliant rhetorical move. It makes him seem honest and thoughtful. He says there was not one strife, Eris, but two on the earth.
Okay.
He says there is the destructive strife. This is the one that fosters war, battle, and legal quarreling. That's the bad one. That's the one his brother Perses is engaging in.
All right, the law courts.
Exactly. But then he says there is a second strife, an elder one, set in the roots of the earth by Zeus himself. And this one is good for men.
The constructive strife.
Competition. Hesiod says, potter is angry with potter and craftsman with craftsman.
And beggar is jealous of beggar.
Exactly. This strife, this envy of your neighbor, drives men to work hard. You see your neighbor getting wealthy, and it stirs you to action. It's the engine of the economy.
So he's validating ambition. He's saying to his brother Perses, don't fight me in court, that's bad strife. Instead, try to out-farm me. That's good strife.
Precisely. It's a call to productive competition rather than destructive conflict.
So that sets the stage. But then he has to answer the big question. Why do we have to work so hard in the first place? Why isn't food just growing on trees for us?
Because of Prometheus.
The great trickster, the friend of humanity.
Yes, and the Works and Days retells the Prometheus story, but it focuses entirely on the consequences for man. It starts with an event called the sacrifice at Macon.
What happened there?
It was a gathering of gods and mortals, and they were deciding how sacrifices should be divided. Prometheus decided to play a trick on Zeus. He butchered an ox, and he made two piles. One pile was all the good meat and organs hidden under the stomach, which looks unappetizing. The other pile was just the white bones, but he covered them in a beautiful, glistening layer of rich fat. He told Zeus to choose which portion the gods would receive from now on.
And Zeus, seeing the glistening fat, chose the bones.
He chose the bones, and this, Hesiod says, is the origin story for why Greek sacrifice involves burning the white bones to the gods. But Zeus knew he was being tricked, and he was not amused.
So he retaliates.
He does. In retaliation, he hides fire from humanity. He takes it away. Life becomes hard and cold.
But Prometheus can't stand that.
No, he steals it back. He takes a hollow fennel stalk, goes up to Olympus, and steals an ember from the sun's chariot, bringing fire back to Earth.
And now Zeus is really, really mad.
Now he is furious.
Yeah.
And he decides to punish humanity with the ultimate trap, a beautiful evil.
Pandora,
the sweet, lovely maiden. Zeus orders Hephaestus, the smith god, to mold her from earth and water. Then he has the other gods give her gifts. Athena teaches her crafts, like weaving. Aphrodite gives her grace and desire.
And
Hermes, the trickster god, gives her a bitch's mind and a thievish nature.
Wow. Hesiod has some, let's call them issues with women.
The misogyny in the text is undeniable, and it's foundational to his argument here. He views woman as this beautiful evil, a drone in the hive that consumes the labor of the man without contributing. It's a harsh view.
So Pandora, her name means all endowed or all gifted, is sent down to Epimetheus.
Yes, Epimetheus, who is Prometheus's brother. Prometheus means forethought. Epimetheus means afterthought. Prometheus had warned his brother never to accept a gift from Zeus.
But Epimetheus is afterthought, so he accepts her.
He accepts her, and she brings with her a wedding gift from Zeus, a large jar, a pithos.
We usually call it Pandora's box.
Right, that's a later mistranslation. Originally, it was a large storage jar, the kind you'd keep wine or grain in, and she has one instruction: don't open it.
But her thievish nature and curiosity get the better of her.
She opens the great lid, and out flies a swarm of evils. Hard toil, sickness, disease, all the plagues that afflict humanity. They scatter across the earth.
But one thing stays inside.
One thing. Hope. Elpis. Just as she's about to slam the lid shut, only hope remained. under the rim of the jar.
Okay, this is one of the most debated points in all of mythology. Is hope staying in the jar a good thing or a bad thing?
It is the great mystery. The interpretations go in two completely opposite directions.
What's the first one?
The optimistic one. The jar contained evils. Hope stayed behind, so it was preserved for us. It's the one good thing that Zeus mercifully allowed us to keep in our miserable lives.
It's our consolation.
It's our consolation, yes. But then there's the other reading.
The pessimistic one.
Yes. If the jar is full of evils and hope is in the jar, then isn't hope also an evil? Perhaps it's the worst evil of all.
How so?
Because it's a delusion. It's the empty expectation that things will get better, which prevents us from seeing the grim reality of our situation and acting accordingly. In this reading, Zeus kept hope in the jar because letting it out would be too cruel even for him. He denies us even the release of utter despair.
So is hope our savior? Or is it the final curse that keeps us chained to suffering?
And Hesiod doesn't answer. He just leaves us with that deeply unsettling ambiguity.
That is a 3 a.m. thought right there.
Yeah.
So now we have a world full of sickness and toil. And Hesiod maps out our history in this world through the famous 5 ages of man.
Right, and it's a devolutionary history. This is not a story of progress. It's a story of constant decline. We are falling.
It starts with the Golden Age, which sounds pretty good.
The Golden Age was perfect. It was under the reign of Kronos. Men lived like gods. There was no sorrow, no hard work. They didn't age. They died as if they were just falling asleep. And the earth bore fruit all by itself.
And when they died, they became guardian spirits.
Exactly. Then comes the Silver Age.
Which is a huge drop-off.
A huge drop-off. The Silver Age people were just foolish. They spent 100 years as babies clinging to their mothers, a prolonged infancy. Then when they finally grew up, they had a short, painful adulthood because they were arrogant and couldn't stop hurting each other.
And they were impious. They didn't sacrifice to the gods.
Right, so Zeus got angry and destroyed them.
Then the Bronze Age.
Even worse, terrible and strong. Made from ash trees, they loved war above all else. Their tools were bronze, their houses were bronze, their hearts were hard as stone. They were so violent, they eventually killed each other off completely.
Then we get this weird blip in the pattern. The Age of Heroes.
Yes. This seems to be Hesiod trying to fit the great heroic cycles like the Trojan War and the Theban War into his system. It's a temporary improvement on the timeline.
These are the demigods, the men who fought at Troy.
Right. A nobler, more just race. And when they died, they didn't go to the grim underworld. They went to the islands of the blessed, a kind of paradise.
And then there's us. The Iron Age.
The Iron Age. And listen to Hesiod's lament here. It's so personal and painful. He says, "Would that I were not among the men of the 5th generation, but either had died before or been born afterwards."
He hates it here.
He despises it. He describes it as a time of unceasing labor and sorrow. He says family ties are disintegrating. Fathers don't agree with children. Children dishonor their parents. There is no reverence. The oath breaker is praised. Might makes right.
And he has this terrifying prophecy about how it all ends.
He does. The gray-haired birth. He predicts that Zeus will finally destroy this race of men when babies are born with gray hair on their temples.
That is such a creepy, unsettling image.
It implies a kind of biological acceleration of decay, that our moral corruption will manifest physically.
And what happens at the very end?
He says eventually the last 2 goddesses will leave the earth. Eidos, who is shame or reverence, and Nemesis, who is righteous indignation. They will cover their beautiful faces in white robes and fly away to Olympus, forsaking mankind.
And then there's no hope. No remedy.
And then he says there will be no remedy against evil. That's the end.
Okay, so we are in the Iron Age. Everything sucks. God is watching. What do we do? And this is where Hesiod brings it back. He says, justice and work.
Correct. That's the only prescription. He talks about justice, or dike, through a little fable, the fable of the hawk and the nightingale.
Right. The hawk has the nightingale in its claws, high in the clouds. The nightingale is crying. And the hawk says, basically, why are you screaming? I'm stronger than you. I'll eat you or let you go, whatever I want. A fool is he who tries to withstand the stronger.
It's the perfect definition of might makes right. It's the law of the jungle.
But Hesiod rejects this. At least for humanity.
He does. He says that sort of behavior is for animals. For fish and beasts and winged birds, it is natural to devour one another because they have no justice. But to mankind, Zeus gave justice, which is by far the best.
And he has this concept of the eye of Zeus to back it up.
The 30,000 immortal watchers. He tells the bribe-swallowing lords that there are invisible spirits walking the earth, clothed in mist, watching their crooked judgments.
It's like a divine surveillance state.
It is, and he warns them that Justice herself is a daughter of Zeus, and when she is wronged, she goes and sits by his throne and whispers in his ear about the wickedness of men who then have to pay.
He essentially tells the corrupt judges, you might win the court case today, but you are bringing a plague on your whole city.
Yes. This is a crucial idea. He connects the moral state of the city directly to the natural world. In the city of the just, the oaks bear acorns, the bees make honey, the sheep are heavy with wool, women bear children who look like their parents. There's peace and plenty.
And in the unjust city,
famine and plague. Zeus sends great armies against them or sinks their ships at sea. Nature itself responds to human morality.
So step one, be just. And the second part of the solution is work.
The gospel of work. He has this amazing line, the deathless gods have placed sweat on the path to goodness.
And he gets very, very specific. This is the Farmer's Almanac section of the poem.
It is deeply practical, but it's also, in its own way, cosmic. He tells you to set your entire life's calendar by the stars, plow when the Pleiades set, harvest when they rise.
He talks about listening for the cry of the crane.
Yes, the cry of the crane migrating south is the signal for plowing. If you miss it, if you're not paying attention, you will starve. It connects human action to the rhythms of the natural world.
He warns against the sunny lounge in the smithy during the winter.
It's so relatable, you can just picture it. The blacksmith shop was the warm place in the village, a place to hang out and gossip. And Hesiod says, avoid it. Idleness leads to poverty. Don't procrastinate.
He gives advice on literally everything. Get a house and a woman and an ox for the plow. He tells you the proper dimensions for a wagon axle. He tells you to avoid the month of Lanaion, the bad winter days that are so cold they can skin an ox.
It's a survival guide for the Iron Age. He's saying that since we don't live in the Golden Age where food just appears by magic, we have to wrestle our existence from the earth with skill and timing and relentless effort.
And then there's his advice on sailing, which is basically, don't
relax, pretty much. He's very clear he's no expert. He admits he's only sailed once, from Olus to Chalcis, which is a very short, sheltered trip.
He's a land guy.
He is a total land guy. He views the sea as chaotic and dangerous. He says if you absolutely must sail to make a living, do it in midsummer when the weather is stable. But even then, he says, don't put all your goods in one ship.
Sound advice.
Yeah. But for him, sailing is a desperate measure for those lacking livelihood. It's a very Boeotian, very landlocked perspective.
But the one trip he took to Chalcis, it's important, because that brings us to the contest.
The contest of Homer and Hesiod. Now, we should say this is likely a later invention, a story told about them centuries later, but it captures the philosophical divide between them perfectly.
They meet at the funeral games of a king named Amphidamus, and they have what is basically a poetry rap battle.
Essentially, yes. They exchange riddles and verses. Hesiod challenges Homer to complete lines of poetry, trying to trip him up with impossible scenarios. And Homer, of course, the master improviser, answers perfectly every single time.
So Homer is clearly the better poet, technically.
By all accounts, yes. His verse is grander, more fluid, more exciting.
But then comes the decision. The judge, King Penates, has to award the prize, a bronze tripod.
And everyone in the crowd expects Homer to win. But the king awards the tripod to Hesiod.
Why?
Because, the king says, Hesiod sang of peace and agriculture. He taught men how to live and how to work. Homer, on the other hand, sang of war and slaughter. And the king decides that the poet of construction is more valuable to a community than the poet of destruction.
That is such a powerful statement, that the boring work of farming is actually the higher calling than the glory of war.
In the context of the Iron Age, absolutely. War just accelerates the decay. Agriculture, justice, work, that's what holds back.
So when you put it all together, what does this all mean for us? We've got the monsters, the mean brother, the hard farming, the eye of Zeus.
I think it means that Hesiod is one of the first existentialists. He looks at a world that is fundamentally hostile, a world of scarcity, a world where the gods are unpredictable and often angry, and he decides that the correct response is not despair.
Right.
The response is ordered, rhythmic action. You wake up, you listen for the cry of the crane, you plow the field, you treat your neighbor justly. You don't sit around hoping for a golden age to return. You build a livable, dignified life in the Iron Age through your own sweat.
It's empowering, in a very greedy, no-nonsense way. It's like the gods hid the food, so you better go find it.
Exactly. The means of life are hidden. Your job is to uncover them.
All right. I think this is the perfect time to move to the part of the show where we take these ancient ideas and we push them until they break. It's time for thought experiments.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
And our usual disclaimer.
Yeah.
These scenarios are for entertainment and educational purposes only. We're just testing the logic of the text here.
Right. No wagering.
Thought experiment number 1. The gray-haired birth, singularity.
Oh, I like this. Based on the prophecy at the end of the Iron Age.
Exactly. So, Hesiod says the Iron Age ends when babies are born with gray hair. This implies that moral entropy, the breakdown of family, respect, justice, causes a biological acceleration. We age faster as our society gets more wicked.
Right. A psychosomatic link between ethics and biology. A very potent idea.
So let's imagine a society where this is a scientifically proven fact. Your biological life cycle directly compresses based on the ethical degradation of the previous generation.
So if your parents are just awful, truly terrible people, you could be born with the body of an 80-year-old.
Precisely. Or maybe you just age 10 years for every 1 year of life.
Yeah.
Now here's the twist. Hesiod says the final collapse is triggered by the departure of the goddesses Eidos, shame, and nemesis, righteous indignation. So, could a society artificially extend its biological viability by engineering artificial shame?
What do you mean, like a surveillance state that mimics the 30,000 Watchers of Zeus?
Exactly that. If the only thing keeping our DNA from completely unraveling is the presence of shame, do we build a super AI, let's call it the Eye of Zeus, that watches everyone, everywhere, all the time? It monitors every transaction, every conversation.
And it assigns a social shame score.
Yes, if you act unjustly, if you lie, if you disrespect your parents, the AI doesn't send you to jail. It just shames you publicly. Your score plummets. Maybe it broadcasts your misdeeds.
That is terrifying. You are effectively forcing mass morality on the population to save the species from biological extinction.
But here's the philosophical question for you. Would it work? Would this kind of forced external morality halt the biological decay? Or would the lack of internal virtue, the fact that we are only being good because the camera is always on, still trigger the gray-haired extinction?
That's a great question, I think. I think Hesiod would probably say it wouldn't work. Because eidos isn't just the fear of getting caught, it's an internal sense of reverence, of what is right. If you're just faking it to keep your score up, you're still Iron Age at heart.
So the biology would know.
The biology would know. You'd just have a society of very polite, well-behaved people dying of old age at 5 years old.
Grim. I love it. Okay. Thought experiment number 2. The hope in the jar inversion.
The Pythos of Pandora.
Yes. So we usually assume hope remaining in the jar is a good thing, so reserved for humanity. But let's take the other interpretation, the curse withheld theory. Let's assume hope was the final, most dangerous evil, and Zeus stopped it from escaping because it was too cruel even for him.
Okay, so hope is a delusion that prevents us from seeing reality clearly and taking appropriate action.
Right. Now, imagine a world where the jar fully emptied, Pandora fumbled the lid, hope escapes and just dissipates into the atmosphere. It's gone forever. Humanity is now left with everything else, including foreknowledge, that Promethean foresight, but with zero hope.
A world of pure, unadulterated rationalism.
Total rationalism. So, you're a farmer. You look at the actuarial tables for weather patterns. You see the soil quality is marginal. You calculate that the probability of the harvest failing is 55%.
In our world, you plant anyway. You hope for a good season.
Exactly. But in this world, you don't plant. It's an irrational risk.
You don't start a business because the statistics on new business failure are too high. You don't get married because you know the divorce rate is nearly 50%. You don't have children because you can rationally foresee all the potential suffering in their lives.
Precisely. Civilization collapses, not from chaos, not from war, but from the utter paralysis of perfect, hopeless rationality. Hesiod's entire gospel of work, the idea of putting sweat between us and goodness, it actually requires the irrational belief, the hope, that next year's harvest will be better than this year's.
So without the evil of hope, the virtue of work becomes impossible.
It's a logical impossibility. We would all just starve to death while staring at our perfectly accurate spreadsheets, having made the most rational decision not to try.
That fits perfectly with Hesiod's worldview. The gods hid the means of life. If we saw the odds clearly, we'd never lift a finger. We need that little bit of illusion, that hope, to keep us going.
Man, Hesiod really makes you look at your daily grind in a completely different way.
He does. He challenges us to view work not as a capitalist drudgery, not as a punishment from God, but as a cosmic liturgy.
A liturgy.
Yeah, a ritual. It is the only ritual strong enough to hold back the chaos of the Iron Age. It's what we do to keep the world from falling apart.
It's the only thing keeping the roof up.
And it leaves us with that one lasting question, doesn't it? If justice is a daughter of Zeus who sits by his side and reports on the wickedness of men, and if we are, by all accounts, still living in the Iron Age,
how much time is left on the clock before the gray hair appears?
that is the question.
Until the next treatise, keep your eye on the Pleiades.
And mind the harvest.